Rank the top college football conferences, my friend.
Well, thanks for having me on. First of all, congrats on both of your success. It's been fun learning about you, and of course, just watching you, Jason. We've known each other for a while now, man. So anytime an opportunity to come hang out with you, man, I'm all in. I think ranking the conferences, it was a fun question for me to pose because I've lived like the trauma of conference ranking in a previous life. Remember, I worked for the Pac-12 for almost 20 years. So I was covering that league. I was defending that league. I was trying to educate on that league. And oftentimes the conference ranking would come down to who won the title game, which I think is a little too easy to do, or who won their bowl games, which now like means nothing, right? Your team in your bowl game is not the team from last year, and it's not the team for next year. So I wanted to throw it out there and just kind of see where fans lie, right? We know what social media can be. Sometimes it helps us, sometimes it informs us, sometimes it makes us turn our phones off. So with that said, I looked at this and I said, all right, let me just kind of get the pulse of college football, and then let's layer in what I think my eyes tell me as an analyst watching film, calling games, etc. And I look at the Big Ten and I look at all the teams this past season that played in 9 conference games. And I just look at them and I say, well, there's really no equity across the sport if you're still in the SEC playing 8. And I think that's an important note that I've always kind of leaned on when you look at bowl records, etc., games that are top heavy like title games. And then I started thinking about the amount of close games that you had. And I look at the Big Ten this year, there's over 31 score games the last 2 seasons in their expanded league. And that's an impressive number. And I always go down to, okay, what makes those games so tight, so close? And as a broadcaster, it's really simple. It's the quarterback play and it's the coaching. And when I look at the quarterback play within the Big Ten this year, when I looked at it last year, I saw a dramatic improvement. When I look at the coaching, I think it's been impressive across the board. And then when you look at what happened on the field, I don't think you can ignore it. And so to me, Big Ten was at the top. I don't think it's dramatic by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's dominant over the SEC, but I think you have to look at them and look at some of the premier players. And now you look at even the 4 new coaches that are out of that league. And to me, it's a pretty easy answer. It's not by a country mile by any stretch, but it is the truth. And they did the things that are relatively easy to judge. Bowl games, title games, we know the story in that regard. So I go there. I'd have to go with the SEC second. I think it makes sense. And then I think there's a divide. I think that's going to be an interesting part of the college football zeitgeist moving forward. I thought that college football was going to expand to 24. I've been pushing that because I felt as though take your 5th best team in every conference, Jason. If you're going to spend $2.5 million on a quarterback to go to Duke, go to Pitt, go to Wisconsin, go to Iowa, like whatever you want to rank your 5th best team, Tennessee, you name it. If you don't have a chance to go to the postseason, I think it's going to be hard in a couple of years for alums and donors to keep paying that type of money. I just think you're going to be saying to yourself, give it to the basketball team, give it to somebody else. So I was hoping that the middle class would get raised a little bit. So as I look at the conference ranking, I get worried about our friends in the ACC and the Big 12. If you're only going to get one team in the postseason moving forward, unless you got a ton of money like a Texas Tech, or Miami, I think it's just going to be hard for your fan base and your donor base to continue to support all of the finances that are required now to compete at a top level.
I think it's a great point and something that I've questioned myself, the sustainability of the current model of college sports, and also looking at the divide in television revenue. The SEC and the Big Ten make significantly more from their TV deals than the Big 12 and the ACC, respectively. But I think for all of those reasons that you pointed out, it's clear it's the Big Ten and the SEC. They are the kings of college football. To the victors go the spoils. The Big Ten has won 3 consecutive national championships, 3 different teams over the last 3 years. But when it comes to negotiating power, we're talking so much about playoff expansion. We're talking so much about what the future of college football looks like. Which of those conferences is more powerful?
Well, I don't think you can argue there. I think it's the Big Ten. I mean, just look at the coast to coast, element of the league. It feels like the NFL. Calling games at 9 a.m. Pacific when I'm flying out to Indiana, and it's rocking last year. I called their game against UW last year where game day was there, and you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then a couple weeks later, I can call. I did it this season. It was at the time Purdue and Rutgers did not have a win in the conference. You would have felt it was like a Big Ten championship game. I mean, 98% capacity, just rocking in that regard. And then you come out to the West and you look at what SC has done, new facility, top recruiting class in the country. Here comes Jaden Mayava, Lincoln Riley. What are they going to do heading into year 5? look up the road a little bit, and here we go with Oregon, which I think they are just a power. I mean, you could argue it's the best job in college football, and what Dan Lanning has done in taking what Mario Cristobal elevated has been masterful. And they're going to be your favorites, I think, next year to go win the whole thing with Dante Moore and a lot of their defensive front returning. And then Washington with Damon Williams. I mean, I heard you talking about him in your previous segment. He might be the most dynamic quarterback in the Big Ten in terms of all the things he can do and the pressure he puts on a defensive coordinator. Here comes Bob Chesney, who's coached in, I think, 183 total games as a head coach, and he's going to rebuild the UCLA thing, but he knows what he's doing. And time on task is impressive. So I just think more powerful. Then you add in the dynamics that the CFP has, where the two commissioners have to clearly agree on a model moving forward. There's a lot of juice there. And then the momentum that we talked about in the first question that you asked about what's the top conference. So I don't even think that one's close. I mean, all the narratives that you hear around the SEC is, can we keep a roster, retain a roster, build our roster? In the Big Ten, it's kind of the other way. It's reload, reload, reload. And I think that the thing that has really made it more powerful moving forward, if you want to use that word, as you reference, it's the coaches I reference. Kyle Whittingham's a Hall of Fame coach, going to Michigan now, hanging out in Ann Arbor. Come on now. Matt Campbell will be a Hall of Fame coach, goes to Penn State. You look at Michigan State and Pat Fitzgerald, an elite coach when you just look at the pedigree and then the player that he is, and just look at the early returns at Michigan State. And I referenced Bob Chesney. So I just think those four new coaches just elevate the league. And I say it compares to the NFL because the games are so tight. So another reason to expand, in my opinion. I think it'll help the SEC that they're playing 9 conference games. I'm telling you, I think that is a big deal when I'm watching Oregon play, Washington or USC in week 11 last year, and I got to watch Alabama or Georgia play the Citadel. Like, it is just a different world. So I'm glad that they finally eliminated that. So I think that's horrible for the game, for the health of the game, for the optics of the game, for the fan experience of the game. So it'll be a fun conversation to revisit a year from now. But right now, I don't think it's close.
All right, Yogi, one reason we were excited to have you on is because you do so much work around quarterbacks. And we're seeing some of the success of young quarterbacks. Drake May about to make his Super Bowl debut. Obviously, that was a loaded quarterback class. We can go back and look at Drake and Jaden Daniels and Caleb and JJ and Bo and all of the players in there. So we're going to put your feet to the fire a little bit here. If you had to redraft those quarterbacks, if you had to suddenly look at the 2024 quarterback class, and now we've seen so much success from some of these guys, how would you rank them? How would you draft them?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is turn my phone off because I don't want to hear from any of them, because this is hard. I wrote a book called 5-Star QB, where a lot of these guys are in the book based on their high school experience. I meet them every summer to your point at the Elite 11. They've sat in my living room and dining room with my kids. I mean, they're amazing when I look at these 6 young men. I think they're fun conversations, right? You had Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. that they had these lengthy college careers. And then you looked at some of these other guys that they're part of the same draft class, and they went to Elite 11 together, and it was COVID 2020 Elite 11, and couldn't be near each other and all of those things. And then you look at how they've all developed. And I think the one commonality among them all, and I won't doubt your question, the one commonality among them all is they've all been through hard things. And I think as we talk about the quarterback position, and I don't know if we'll go there after this, but you have to be able to go through adversity, and you have to be willing to walk through it. Whether we look at Sam Darnold, who, when he came out, I remember going on the record saying, I think Sam Darnold's got the ability to be like a Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL. And you would have laughed at that opinion in his first handful of years in the National Football League. And now look at where he sits. But he had to go through hard things. This is a guy who was a 3-sport athlete coming out of high school in San Clemente. He was a 3-star recruit till he came to Elite 11. I turned to Trent Dilfer and I said, doesn't he remind you of Andrew Luck? Boom. His recruiting exploded. He committed to USC, and away he went. So I think that is a truth for all of those players whose faces we just saw on that graphic. They all have had to go through their own thing. It was Jaden Daniels dealing with it when he left Arizona State, and to me, completely mistreated. And the way people talked about him in the sports media, even coming out of that building, I thought was wrong. Clearly proven wrong. He hoisted the Heisman Trophy and got drafted where he got drafted and did what he did a year ago. Caleb, it's almost like it's easy to throw daggers at him sometimes and take shots. Dude's the best quarterback I've ever seen, in the college level, at least at that time. So if I was going to re-rank these guys, I'd still go Caleb 1. I think that he's just so unique in that regard. And again, had to go through what he went through his first year. I think oftentimes we look at these quarterbacks that don't pan out. Like the thing is going around about USC and Sam Darnold being the first one to ever get to the Super Bowl as a starting quarterback. And I'm like, well, yeah, because they're also drafted so highly to the worst teams. It's hard to do. It's hard to do if you're Carson Palmer and you're in Cincinnati and then you're with the Raiders. Like, it's just not the easiest thing if you're drafted so high. So I still go with Caleb. I think he's just got freaky, unique traits. I love how his mind works, and he's probably been the coolest to my 10-year-old among that group. So, I give him a little props there. I think two, I'd probably go Jaden Daniels. I think the uniqueness of his twitchiness, the way that he can spin it. I know his mind. I've known him since he was 170 pounds soaking wet. And watching him progress through his path, he's the quietest probably of the group, but the way that he operates, at times he knows when he needs to turn up his own volume. So I love just the mind that he has approaching the craft. I think after that, it gets really hard for me because I look at a guy like Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix and the way they play, what they do to their team, the way their mind works. I'd probably have to go Bo if I was going to go somewhere, just because of his time on task as a starting quarterback if I had to redraft these guys. And then it just gets hard. The unique arm talent of Penix, Drake May, we know what he is. He was the same guy coming out, same guy in college, steady, quiet, but also surgical, also could be a sniper, also had that killer instinct. We're seeing that on full display. And same thing with J.J. McCarthy. I think he went 37-2 in high school. Then he never lost again in college. I think he lost 2 games in college. Like, just a winner. So all of them, to me, have been, they were so impressive early on. If you met him, you'd be like, "Oh my God, is this real? How many can you be that kind, thoughtful, and competitive and talented?" And I think I'm rooting for them all. And they're clearly the next wave of the National Football League, which is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it's easy to root for all of these guys, but I do want to stick on your number one quarterback in that class, and Caleb Williams. This past season in Chicago was nothing short of magical. Ben Johnson was the perfect hire for Caleb Williams, but from what you've seen from him and what you know about him, what is his ceiling in the NFL?
As high as he wants it to be. He's never put limits on himself. Go back and listen to my podcast, Why Option, with him, his first week on campus at SC, and you'll hear him talk about speaking things into existence and the vision he has for himself and his career. I think again he catches a lot of flack for, whether it's things that his family has said or the Bears and the draft, the whole story. I'm reading the book American Kings right now, which is phenomenal. Check it out, by Seth Wickersham, about the quarterback position. But you get past the highlights, and there's so much depth there, and I see that when I'm around Caleb Williams, and I've known him for a while, and I think to be an elite player, not only do you have to be a competitor, accurate, processor, but you really have to be, what I've coined over my time around this position, is you have to be a seeker, seeking out how to be better, seeking out wisdom, seeking out advice, knowing you don't have all the answers. When you do stumble, you seek ways to go through it. Seek ways to watch film, like on and on and on. Like, it never ends. You don't turn that off. Pete Carroll used to tell us that 20 years ago. You're either competing or you're not. And I think for Caleb, that's him. That's his unique trait. He's got a beautiful vision for himself, and I think his team follows. And I think we've seen him continue to grow in this new system, and I cannot wait to watch him head into year 3.
All right, Yogi, we got to get you out of here. Quick before we get you out of here, on a scale of 1 to 10, give me 30 seconds. A scale of 1 to 10, how excited should I be for Fernando Mendoza?
Oh, you should be excited just to talk to him. I hope you'll probably be at the Super Bowl. I hope he does the Jerry Maguire walkthrough. And if he does, get time with him. He's phenomenal. I met him at Cal when they called him the mayor. And obviously, he's not just the mayor, but he's the governor, he's the president, he's whatever you want in college football right now. And he's a beautiful soul. I mean, he really is. He's an elite competitor. He's a different personality, man, but he's a winner. And he can relate to the players. He's got so many special traits. And again, I go back to the same thing I referenced earlier. He's been through it a lot. He's been through adversity. People haven't picked him, haven't bet for him. He hasn't tried to prove people wrong. He's tried to prove himself right. And look where he stands now, at the top of the mountain in college football.